And you? Go ahead, Marcelo.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathan, and all of you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Marcelo Lomelí. I'm working in the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. I'm working doing a research project about water management and environmental issues. Answering the question about the fundings about these kind of projects, the University of Baja California has been working since a lot of years ago in the Colorado River Delta doing restoration projects. I saw in the agenda the participation of Dr. Francisco Zamora from Sonoran Institute. He's one of the collaborators with our institution. He's from Sonoran Institute, the ONG and Sonoran Institute, and he's working with the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. I think that it's important to about this project is very interesting. I'm very glad to participate here and see all the information you bring to us. I see a lot of issues about this project. I think you have the answer about all this process to create this environmental, hydraulic environmental, and the functionality with the Salton Sea. But I see some issues mainly about this environment of the core zone of the Sea of Cortez, because I'm very I have this question: where will be disposed all this returns water of the salt water generating about the desalination process, for example? In that way, I think it's very important to consider that the Semarnat, which is one of the most important organisms in Mexico, they need to evaluate if this project would be favorable for all these activities that wanted to be done here in the Laguna Salada. However, I guess the participation and the organization that brings money from the restoration project, or for example here in the Delta, I think maybe they will be interesting to include their participation maybe here in the Laguna Salada. As we know, right now we see some agreements between Mexico and US about bringing water to the Colorado River to do restoration projects, but those projects do not include this flooding in the Laguna Salada. Other interesting thing about it is that all the water that comes from Mexico to US from the Rio Nuevo, that water is not counted in the agreements. So I think could be a good idea to create some kind of balance of the importance to do this coming water from the Colorado River and the water that is bringing back to the United States from the Colorado River, or in that way from the Laguna Salada. As part of the academic participation, the university, in our case, from the Faculty of Engineering here in Mexicali, we are very glad if we can participate, including also our students from PhD in water resources. And maybe we can collaborate with you, creating some modeling using ECRAS, using GIS or remote sensing as well. I think it could be a good idea to collaborate, as Guadalupe mentioned. Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm really excited that you jumped in. That's really the intention of this whole event, is to get input from the many different agencies. And the really interesting part is the collaboration flowers over time, right? The initial inception that brought, the Kukapa members to me ask for assistance or to look at the project in more detail, flowered into a introduction with Alan Dennis and his team with Jimena, flowered into another coordination with Lupe Acuna and his university, and yet again today. And that's kind of the intent, is that, us as project managers don't have all the solutions. But specifically to your question about the delta, that is our predominant environmental focus, is how we can make that better and enhance that. If there's impacts that are happening now with higher salinity content, how does this project actually adjust that system? And I kind of mentioned in the presentation earlier, but I can just share one of those slides real quick. Is we believe, and we just need the scientific analysis to prove that this is the current situation and salinity is building up, and that this proposal of blending in ocean water with the water that's in Laguna Salada would be a benefit, and go outside of the protected habitat down into the lower areas. Because what you have is salt water is heavier than the ocean water. Saltier water is heavier than the regular ocean water. So if you can put that into the bottom area, then that will continue to go down. But we need extensive environmental analysis. This is just our conceptual understanding. We want to dive deep into that. And you mentioned the Sonoran Institute. We want to be able to help them get funding so that they can be the predominant environmental analysis of that region. That's our goal, is not to have them endorse this project. We're introducing this to the Sonoran Institute so they can have an objective opinion about how this actually does affect the environment. We've had several good working and planning meetings just with those questions. How does this adversely affect the delta? Because the delta is a part of this, not just the Sea of Cortez. The actual estuary and the delta protected habitat area is a big portion of this project in and of itself. And they brought up very, very eloquent questions. Are we proposing to flood and divert all the water into Laguna Salada? Because that would have an adverse effect on both the delta and the Sea of Cortez. And through those planning meetings and those sessions, no, we would only divert a portion of it, in any given month, right? There's a portion diverted, so you'd never have that adverse effect to that entire ecological system. So I'm really thankful that you jumped on here, and we'd be happy to collaborate with your university as well as, like we mentioned, the Polytechnical University of Baja.
Yeah, sure. As just another comment. Since I start my practicing, when I finished my scholarship here in the university, we have been working with the analysis of the tides in the Sea of Cortez, and we observed that the Laguna Salada only rise the water when we have very high tides in the month during the month. So I think it's very important to consider that, and the disposal of the sediments that these high tides have been carried out during all these periods of high tides and low tides, of this process of these changes of the terrain level, because it changes in one or other ways. It could change. So it's important to just not predict one scenario for this process. I think it's important to first create the hydrological model and the hydraulic model using the tools. Obviously, we need to understand very well how is the topography of the sites, and see how is the behaviors of the high tides rising to the Laguna Salada, and see where it can be better to create this interesting project, right?
Yeah. I will be covering a lot of that in my presentation tomorrow.
Oh, very well.
Because there are a lot of PhD papers that deal with sedimentation in the Colorado River Delta after 100 years of no sediments incoming. We'll cover what happened since the 2010 earthquake, because that changed the gradient on how waters come in and out. But there's also, at the extreme northern Gulf, the Coriolis effect and other such things bounce incoming tidal long waveforms off of the North American plate and actually push sediments and silts up against the Baja Peninsula. Okay. Ours is, God has blessed us with the ability to actually create a canal and release some of it down close to San Felipe. Mm-hmm. It is this tidal reflection off of the North American plate, which traps a lot of silt and or salt along the Baja Peninsula. We'll cover that in pretty good detail, but you are correct. We need more people looking at it.
Rob, I don't know if in your presentation you include what happened during April 4th, during the earthquake, because I remember those days we saw in the Laguna Salada these changes in the surface, how it changed about, it's like I don't know if there is a fault right there, but if we saw how it changed about it during this period. It looked like the earth stand down, like poof. I
Correct.
remember there is a paper about this. Steve Nelson, he analyzed how changed the surface of the land before, no, before and after this earthquake. It's very interesting to see this article. If you want it, I can share to you. I think that is in my.
I always love research papers. Please forward it to me. I don't know if you have my email address or not. We'll try and get that to you.
No, we can stay in contact right now.
You can put it in the private chat, just select him and drop it in. That's the nice thing about Zoom is we could all have private chats. If you want to meet somebody, you can always reach out to them. So we have about 10 minutes left. Maybe we can talk briefly, Marcelo and Lupe, because it's all part of the conversation, but maybe specifically to the inclusive and sustainable development of Laguna Salada. Is that a regular meeting? Is it public meeting? Is that something that can be attended by people, or is there an opportunity to make that also a digital conversation? With this platform, it's really interesting how we can involve lots of different people, and we can also publish that conversation like we're doing now with YouTube or Facebook, which we are recording. I don't know if I gave that caveat earlier in the presentation, but we are recording and publishing this event. But maybe just talking briefly, Lupe, about the inclusive and sustainable development, because I definitely want to include Marcelo in that conversation as it pertains south of the border.
Sure.
Creo que aquí en Mexicali podemos celebrar una reunión con la Universidad Politécnica, la Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, el Tecnológico de Mexicali, con ellos, con las universidades, para crear una mesa de trabajo que la pudiésemos replicar del otro lado, para crear un mecanismo binacional, para hacer producciones, hacer documentales, materiales de divulgación sobre este tema, de lo que viene siendo el parte del agua, la problemática del agua, la contaminación, los temas de la colaboración binacional. Podría ser un paso, una propuesta de colaboración interinstitucional.
Yes, I think we can create a group with different universities in Mexicali, Universidad Autónoma, Instituto Tecnológico Mexicali, Universidad Polytechnica de Mexicali. So we can create papers, we can create documentals talking about the water problems, the pollution problems, and also we can sort of replicate this on the other side of the border, so we can have this as a binational collaboration. I think this would be my proposal.
I think Ethan, this is also another comment. It's very important to socialize this project to the communities, not only the rural communities. I think the Cucapas, all the indigenous people here, and also the people that live in Mexicali, because we have right now very interesting issues about water management, because the society I think it's important the way that you socialize this information to people, not only to government, because that can create a lot of limitations during the process. Because it's historical, we have a lot of problems with these projects. We need to mention how we do, where the money came, or the money comes, and all stuff. Because they think this project is for another thing, which brings less benefit than the people say. that the people say or how they manage them. Transparency, or how is it done?
No, that's a great comment, and I think I'm just going to do 2 bullet points for both of you real quick, because this is the question that we hear all the time here in the United States from all of the political officials, and this is what we heard actually after a group of political officials gave a presentation at I believe it was Agua Caliente. There was public officials from Mexico. The question was, do you support restoration of the Salton Sea if that included water from the Sea of Cortez? 5 different panel members all said yes, that Mexico would support and help with restoration of the Salton Sea. Maybe 1 year later, or maybe a month later, we heard from different public officials, well, Mexico doesn't really support the effort. So I'll give that, it's kind of a 2-part question for both of you. Do you both think that the state of Mexicali, the federal government of Mexico, wants to support restoration of the Salton Sea as itself? And B, do you think the inclusion of Laguna Salada makes it more abundantly important to help support that effort because of the benefit?
¿Quieres responder, Guadalupe?
Les dejo la palabra.
I think yes. The question is the state will support this kind of projects, but don't ask him about funding, because maybe the intentions are very well, but the fundings are not very clear. So I think there is not fundings to create this kind of project. Restoration right now here in the state is very important to the communities, because they are managing kind of a lot of explanation about how they do it and where is this amount of money. A lot of environmental education as well. That's what I mean. The state right now, I think, can help. Siempre y cuando, no me acuerdo cómo se dice siempre y cuando. Hasta en mute tu micrófono. Siempre y cuando.
Yes.
Sí. Lo que pasa es de que quiero decir que el gobierno está interesado, very interested to participate, siempre y cuando they want to know how it will be done. What are the benefits that it brings? That's what I mean.
So he wants to say that the government is interested as long as the benefits for Mexico are known. Y quiero que también, ¿de dónde viene el dinero, verdad?
Sí, o sea, lo que quiero decir es de que México no, o sea, te dicen sí te apoyo, pero la verdad es de que no hay lana para hacerlo. O sea, puede que haya algunas fundaciones, pero realmente el dinero que se utiliza para la restauración se proviene de las fundaciones, ¿no? Estados Unidos, y a una participación por parte del gobierno mexicano, de la SILA, de la CONAGUA, etc.
So Mexico, it is interested, but the government doesn't really have the money to fund this project. So some NGOs might be able to put some money, CONAGUA might be able to put some money as well, but they're interested in knowing how is this going to be funded. Like, okay, I'm on board with it, but where is the money coming from? How is this going to be done?
Is that specific to Laguna Salada? Or just in general?
No, in general. Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the basis of where we launched from, right? If there's a pipeline that pulls water out of the Sea of Cortez, and there's a pipeline that goes across Mexico and drops it into the United States, there might be an economic benefit to Mexico. Here's the amount of money that it's going to take every year to do that. But how do you go beyond that? And that's where we started with our concept. How do you go beyond that to not just have that financial incentive, but also the environmental incentive and the economic incentive? So like that's where the origination of Laguna Salada restoration came from, is not only its restoration of the ancestral fishing grounds for Cucapa, but it's also these other things. But yes, that's a great comment. Lupe, any other closing thoughts before we leave today?
Bueno, ya habíamos dicho eso del recurso. O sea, ahorita no no habría recursos para un proyecto de restauración en la Salada. Lo que estamos hablando es de que involucrar a la Laguna Salada para detonar algunas potencialidades que tiene la Laguna Salada y que eso permita restaurar el Salton Sea por el peligro que representa para la salud pública de toda la región. Pero la Laguna Salada no está dentro de la agenda de la restauración, sino para el aprovechamiento del recurso natural. Y bueno, ahí se pudieran crear algunos mecanismos de financiamientos, pero con una visión de recuperar la inversión, de generar riqueza y oportunidades de desarrollo. Quizá así pudiera ser visualizado para conseguir los permisos de gobierno. Pero hasta ahí. O sea, el gobierno daría los permisos para aprovechar el recurso natural. Y bueno, pues de ahí generar otros alcances para contribuir a la restauración del Salton Sea. Sería un proyecto binacional. Pero hasta ahí. O sea, recursos que se presupuestan, recursos para restaurar una zona como la Salada, no es ese el enfoque de gobierno actualmente. Eso es lo que yo sé. Hasta ahí. Gracias.
Ethan, during the process of this restoration issues, it's important to mention that the zones that is used about create restoration site, there are federal zones. No one can go into these polygons and do some activities because they are federal zones. Maybe we need to analyze what kind of use of the land is the Laguna Salada right now, because it's probably conservation zone or maybe it's federal zone something, and then propose this kind of projects. Because but all this process it needs to be incorporated in the we mentioned in here Manifiesto de Impacto Ambiental, environmental impact manifesto. So, and then we mentioned all this information about which kind of activities are there, the vegetation located, the animals, or everything. This is a document, a very interesting document to mention what we have right now and what we are going to do in this area. If the government says yes, okay, it proceeds. If not, the government says, okay, this is over, no more projects. So that's why I mentioned before, it's very important to tell exactly what are we going to do with this project. All the specification, where the salinity will be stay, what are we going to do with the water, all the affectations. There is a matrix called Leopold Metrics to analyze the benefits and the cons about these processes. So I think it's important to evaluate that. Engineer Dennis, I think he's a lot of experience. We know him here in the university because his company. I think he has a lot of experience doing that, and we can also collaborate with him if he wants, and see what are the limitations that I have right now.
Absolutely. Well, I think those are great points to wrap up, and I want to thank you, Lupe, Mr. Acuna, for joining. Muchas gracias, señor, my friend. It's really appreciated. The overwhelming gratitude and kindness that we received when we went to visit and give a presentation at their university. It really makes a difference when you're sharing these kind of concepts, because like Marcelo mentioned, there's an initial concept to be resistant, right? To be skeptical, and that's exactly why we're bringing this discourse forward. We want to be skeptical because those are the critical answers that need to be had. So Marcelo, I appreciate you stepping in as well. Lupe as well, greatly appreciated, and Jimena, appreciate you helping out as well and joining the discourse. So with that, we're going to jump in to our next section. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you, Jimena. And we're going to kind of talk about a little bit different topic real quick. I'll give